Hello everyone, my name is Pasantatsar Gunwardana. I'm going to be discussing the biology O-level supportive program, biology paper 2 today. So the first MCQ is Kamal works in a glass factory for a long period of time. In a medical test, it was revealed that his lung tissues are getting deteriorated gradually. Accordingly, which disease is Kamal suffering from? Okay, so when we say glass, it's basically silicon oxide, right? So we can directly get the answer as silicosis. So you will learn in depth what silicosis is in A level. There's a separate part for diseases in the respiratory system. There you will learn in depth what happens in silicosis. Okay, so basically silica particles gets trapped inside your lungs, and large particles get surrounded by macrophages, and basically that causes lung tissue to get deteriorated. Okay, so the answer is number 4. Next we have select the option which gives a type of non-granular site and a type of granular site respectively. Now when we take white blood cells, so white blood cells, you can write them as a WBC. You can categorize them under two types. Okay, granulocytes and agranulocytes. Okay, now these are categorized further, right? So under granulocytes there are 3 cells. So there's neutrophils, there's basophils, and there's eosinophils. Okay, and under lymphocytes, sorry, under agranulocytes there are lymphocytes and monocytes. So there's lymphocytes and monocytes. Okay, now lymphocytes we can categorize further. So there are 3 types of lymphocytes. There's a T lymphocyte, there's B lymphocyte, and then there's natural killer cells. Natural killer cells. Okay, so again in A level you will learn further, especially about these lymphocytes. These are T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes. You will learn further under acquired immunity, and you will learn about basically there's an entire subsection in unit 5 biology called immunity. Under that you will learn further about these cells, their functions, how they make like stop in like invasive microorganisms. You will learn further. So the answer for that is number 4, right? So they're asking a type of non-granular site and a type of granular site respectively. So you know, so monocyte is a granular site, which is basically a non-granular site, so monocyte, and a granular site is basophils. Okay, next MCQ. The endocrine glands that secrete glucagon and calcitonin in the human body are respectively. So we know the pancreas is both an endocrine and an exocrine gland. That exocrine word you will learn in A level. So exocrine means they secrete like enzymes and stuff. Okay, so endocrine means they secrete hormones. So pancreas secretes both enzymes, digestive enzymes, and hormones. So the two hormones that the pancreas secretes is insulin and glucagon. Okay, insulin lowers your blood glucose level, and glucagon increases your blood glucose level. So when what happens is, when you consume a lot of sugar, your blood glucose level increases, and the pancreas secretes insulin. Then insulin converts glucose to glycogen, and that stores in your livers and skeletal muscles, right? And when you're doing like exercises or whatever, and your blood glucose level decreases, the pancreas secretes glucagon, and that causes that stored glycogen to convert back into glucose, which is used by your skeletal muscle cells and like cardiac muscle cells, by your brain. So that's the function of glucagon. So the endocrine gland that secretes glucagon is the pancreas. So calcitonin is secreted by the thyroid gland. Okay, so the thyroid gland secretes calcitonin. Calcitonin reduces blood calcium. Okay, so when the blood calcium level increases, then calcitonin is secreted by the thyroid gland, and that causes the blood calcium level to decrease by depositing calcium in your bones, or by I mean, this is explained under LL. It's by either depositing calcium in your bones or stopping the reabsorption of calcium in your kidneys, right? So the answer for that is 1. Next you have which of the following end products of digestion is not absorbed by the blood capillaries of the villi in the small intestine in human. Now amino acids is absorbed by small like blood capillaries in the small intestine, right? Now if we take a cross section of the small intestine, so let's say this is a cross section in a small intestine. Okay, so there are permanent circular foldings present. Okay, and if we enlarge this, you get something like this. Right? Then say this is a blood vessel. Okay, now this is a blood vessel, right? And then there's this thing called a lacteal also, right? Lacteals are also there. Now blood vessels are connected to your circulatory system, and lacteals are connected to your lymphatic system, right? So I mean, even on the surface of villi there are the epithelial cells. So if we enlarge this portion, let's say this is an epithelial cell, lining your small intestine. So this is called a villi, right? These are called microvilli, right? So the function of these circular foldings and villi and microvilli are to increase the surface area in the small intestine for effective absorption of nutrients, right? So the nutrients that are absorbed, so if we refer to the question, amino acids are absorbed by the blood vessels, right? So amino acids absorbed by the blood vessels. And galactose and fructose is also absorbed by galactose, fructose are also absorbed by the blood vessels. So these are sugars, right? But glycerol, fatty acids are absorbed into the lacteals. So these are the end products of lipid digestion. So lipids are converted into fatty acids and glycerol, and these are absorbed into the lacteals. That process of absorption is also further explained in A-level. So the answer for that question is number 2, glycerol. Fifth one, which of the following is a function of human cerebellum? Right, so there are major parts of the human brain, right? So there's the cerebrum, there's the cerebellum, it's right over here. There's medulla oblongata, further explained in A-level, and there's a spinal cord, right? So they're asking the functions of the human cerebellum, right? Now clearly you can see one of the functions of the human cerebellum is maintaining balance of the body, right? And in A-level we mentioned that cerebellum also involves in coordinating complex body movements like running and jumping. So the answer for that is number 1. So performing high mental activities is coordinated by the cerebrum, right? In A-level we mentioned that there are there are three main areas in the cerebrum. So there's something called an association area, motor area. So there's 3 parts like that. So the association area is involved in performing high mental activities. Perception of visual stimuli is by the occipital lobe in the cerebrum. So there are association areas, there's motor areas, and there's sensory areas in your cerebrum. So the sensory area is involved in perception of senses like touch, sight, hearing, stuff like that, right? Temperature, pressure. So those are the sensory stimuli that your cerebrum can identify. So control of respiration, we know it's by the medulla oblongata, but in A-level it's further explained that even the pons varoli involves in control of respiration. In urine filtration process taking place in kidneys, which of the following is filtered into the glomerulus from blood? So technically this question is kind of wrong. I'll explain why. Okay, so we know kidneys have structural and functional units called nephrons, right? So I'll draw the basic structure of a nephron, right? So Right. So this is the nephron. So the nephron receives blood from the glomerulus. So the glomerulus is a ball of capillaries. So this is a capillary, right? So this is the afferent arteriole. This is the efferent one. Right. Now notice that the diameter of this is larger than the diameter of this. That's given under an adaptation of the glomerulus for filtration. So what happens is, when the diameter of this is larger than the diameter of this, the pressure inside the glomerulus is higher. That causes the filtration to happen more effectively, right? So this is the glomerulus, right? This we call the Bowman's capsule. So this is these are like ducts, right? So this is the posterior convoluted duct. This is the distal convoluted duct. Right? This is the loop of Henle. Okay, so blood enters like this, exits like this, and gets filtered into the Bowman's capsule, right? So in A-level there are several adaptations for both the glomerulus and the Bowman's capsule, which is for effective filtration. So basically there are small pores in the like this glomerulus that causes the filtration to happen, right? But those pores are small, right? So large objects or cells like blood cells, plasma proteins, and platelets, they don't get filtered. They remain in the blood capillary, right? So what does get filtered is glucose. So glucose enters into the Bowman's capsule, but then it is later reabsorbed. We call that process selective reabsorption back into different blood capillaries. So there's different blood capillaries like peritubular capillaries and vasa recta. They are also explained in A-level. So they reabsorb important nutrients and minerals back into the body, right? So the answer for that is glucose. In respiration of living organisms, oxygen gas and carbon dioxide gas exchange at the respiratory surface. Accordingly, the respiratory surface of human is. So gas exchange is removal of carbon dioxide from the body and absorption of oxygen from the environment, right? So the place that where that occurs is in the alveoli wall. So alveoli wall is thin and it is also moisturized by mucus. So therefore diffusion can take place and these gases can be exchanged. So the respiratory surface is the alveolar wall. So eighth one, the liver is an organ. Liver is an organ. We classify liver to be an organ. It's not a tissue, it's not a cell, it's not a system. Liver belongs to the digestive system, so it's an organ. Ninth one, which of the following structure function pairs indicates the correct relationship? So blood platelets, they don't produce antibodies. What does produce antibodies is white blood cells, specifically B lymphocytes, right? And it's that process is further explained in A level. So blood platelets don't produce antibodies. Okay. Next we have white blood cells and function transport of oxygen. So white blood cells don't transport oxygen. They are involved in defense from foreign invasions. So they don't. That statement is wrong, right? Next we have red blood cells function phagocytosis. So red blood cells don't involve in phagocytosis. That's another function of white blood cells, specifically macrophages. So basically, if there's a germ, let's say bacteria, right? So what the macrophage does is it engulfs. So this is the macrophage. It engulfs the bacteria and digests the bacteria inside the cell, right? So that destroys the bacteria. So that's how they kill. That's how macrophages kill microorganisms. So that's also wrong. So next we have blood plasma transport of hormones. So that's correct. The function of blood plasma is transport of protons. Hormones. Coordination of movements and equilibrium of the human body are maintained by the cerebellum. So that was also explained in the 5th question. So the answer for this was given as spinal cord. That's wrong. The actual answer is cerebellum. In which part of the alimentary canal is the enzyme lipase added to food? So small intestine, there are 3 parts of the small intestine: duodenum, ileum and jejunum, right? So duodenum is where majority of the digestion takes place, and ileum, jejunum, they involve in absorption of nutrients, right? So the answer is duodenum. So basically enzymes from the pancreas, bile from the liver, and enzymes from the small intestine itself too are secreted into the duodenum. So that's where chemical digestion occurs. So duodenum is C-shaped, right? So the pancreas is here, right? So we mentioned that pancreas and gallbladder opens into the duodenum via a single duct called the hepatopancreatic duct. So branch of the pancreatic duct and another branch from the gallbladder empty into the duodenum, right? So from over here enzymes are secreted into the duodenum, right? So the answer is number 1. So enzyme secreted to the stomach is pepsin. In esophagus there are no enzymes. In large intestine also no enzymes are secreted, right? What is the constituent mostly present in the urine of a healthy person? So the answer is water, right? Mostly present is water. Which of the following cells are multinucleated? So red blood cells, mature red blood cells actually don't have a nucleus. So mature red blood cells, we call them biconcave discs, right? So mature red blood cells actually lack a nucleus because they want to get as much volume as necessary to carry oxygen to the required body parts, right? So red blood cells, RBC, no nucleus, right? White blood cells have a single nucleus, right? And cardiac muscle cells are also uninucleated, but skeletal muscle cells have multiple nuclei. So they are long cylindrical, multinucleated, striated cells, right? So there are striations present, and to the periphery of the cell there are multiple nuclei present as well. So this is a skeletal muscle fiber, right? These are nuclei. The figures A, B and C below indicate three types of muscle tissues. A, B and C above respectively are. So A, we can see that it's a spindle shaped cell and they lack striations, right? Lack striations, uninucleated spindle shaped cells. So they are smooth muscle cells, right? In B, we can see they are long cylindrical cells. They are striated, right? And they have multiple nuclei. So we can conclude them to be skeletal muscle cells, right? In C, we can see branched striated cells. So branched cells, right? And they're striated as well. So, and also they are uninucleated. So these are cardiac muscle cells. So you can see this line, right? The boundary that separates the cells, we call them an intercalated discs. So the function of that also you will learn. Basically, that's important to synchronize the heartbeat, because skeletal muscle, cardiac muscle cells are only found in the heart. So these intercalated discs, they help to synchronize the heartbeat and to transfer signals between cells. So that's the function of them, right? So the answer for that is number 3. So smooth muscle cells, skeletal muscle cell and cardiac muscle tissue. What is the part common to the human digestive system and the human respiratory system? So this is the pharynx, right? So the pharynx is a common passage for both the digestive system and the respiratory system, right? There's a thing called an epiglottis that involves in closing the respiratory passage while you are eating food. So that concludes the discussion of the first part of the biology support paper 2. So thank you guys for watching. Good luck with the oral examination. Do your best, and we hope you guys choose biology or math streams for your levels as well. See, there are lots of interesting things where you can learn deeper about these theory points, right? Like I mentioned, right? Good luck.